If I asked most agents what social proof is, they'd probably tell me to go and look at their Rate My Agent page. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you've got great reviews, you definitely use them. If you've got great testimonials, of course you want to use them. If you've got happy clients willing to jump on camera and tell the world about their experience, that's fantastic. But here's what I find interesting. I'm Clint, and this is Creativity That Converts, the show where we unpack the art and strategy of using video to grow your business. This is the space to learn what's working, what's changing, and how to create content that really connects. No fluff, no ego, just real talk that gets results. Welcome to Creativity That Converts. Some agents have hundreds of reviews and still seem to be fighting for every listing. And other agents, well, they don't have anywhere near as many reviews, but they seem to have people call on them all the time. So clearly there's something else going on there. And I think one of the problems is that we've started looking at social proof too narrowly. We've convinced ourselves that social proof is something somebody else gives us. A review, a testimonial, a recommendation. When in reality, some of the strongest social proof you'll ever create is content that allows people to make up their own mind about you. Because think about it from the consumer's perspective. Let's say I'm thinking about selling my home. I can go and read 20 reviews about you, and that's helpful. But if I spend the next month watching your videos, listening to how you explain the market, hearing how you talk about pricing, and seeing how you guide people through the process, I'm learning something completely different. I'm not learning what somebody else thinks about you. I'm learning what I think about you. And that's a really important distinction because people trust conclusions they arrive at themselves. That's why I think some agents underestimate what's actually happening when somebody watches their content. Take a market update, for example. Most agents think they're sharing information, but what's actually happening? The viewer is watching how you think. They're watching how you interpret what's happening in the market. They're watching whether you're reacting to headlines or helping people understand what those headlines actually mean. And over time, they start forming an opinion, not necessarily about the market, about you. They start thinking things like, okay, this person seems to know what they're talking about. And that's social proof. Not because you said you were an expert, because they reached that conclusion themselves. The same thing happens with suburb videos. We spend all this time trying to prove we're the local experts, and then somebody watches a 5-minute video about an area and decides it for themselves. They see the way you talk about the community, the things that you point out, the little details that only somebody who genuinely understands the area would know. And before long, they're thinking, okay, this person really gets this area. Again, that's social proof. Not because you claimed it, because they observed it. And I think that's where a lot of agents are getting stuck and confused. They're waiting for somebody else to validate them, waiting for another review, waiting for another testimonial, waiting on another client success story, when they're already sitting on one of the most powerful trust-building tools available to them, their knowledge, their experience, their ability to explain things clearly. And honestly, I think this becomes even more important in the market that we see right now. Because when confidence is high, people move quickly. But when confidence drops, people start asking more questions. They spend longer times researching. They spend more time trying to work out who they actually trust. And when that happens, a 5-star review isn't always enough. People want to know how you think. They want to know how you communicate. They want to know whether you're somebody who can help guide them through a decision. And that's why content becomes so powerful. Because every useful video is another opportunity for somebody to understand who you are. Not the polished version, not the marketing version, the real version. The way you think, the way you explain things, the way you help people make sense of what's happening. That's why I've always believed videos like what to expect from an appraisal, how pricing works, what happens during the selling process are some of the most powerful videos an agent can create. Not because they're exciting. Let's be honest, nobody's sitting around on a Friday night hoping to watch a video about an appraisal process. But when somebody is thinking about selling, those videos become incredibly valuable because they answer questions, they remove uncertainty, and they allow people to experience what it's like to work with you before they've ever picked up the phone to call you. And that's where trust gets built. Not through a claim, not through a testimonial, through evidence. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from today's episode. Reviews matter. Testimonials matter. Absolutely use them. But don't make the mistake of believing they're your only source of social proof. Because every useful video you create gives somebody another opportunity to answer a really important question. Is this somebody I trust to help me? And when your content consistently helps people answer that question, something interesting happens. By the time they finally reach out, they're not really trying to decide whether you're credible. They've already made that decision. And just one last thing before I let you go from this week's episode. I want you to think about the last 3 or 4 videos you've put out. Forget the views, forget the likes. Did any of them actually start a conversation? Did somebody send you a message? Mention one of your videos at an open home. Bring it up during an appraisal. If not, that's not a failure, it's information. Because somewhere in your content there's a leak. You're putting in the effort, but something is stopping that content from getting to the part that actually matters, creating conversations. That's exactly why I built the Content That Converts scorecard. It'll take about 3 minutes to complete, and it'll help you identify where the gaps are in your current video strategy. You'll find the link in the show notes. Jump over, take the scorecard, and find out what's holding your content back. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.